To the ancients, this was not mere astronomy. It was a visual sign of a sky-devouring beast, a moment where time itself seemed to stand still.
Faster! Pull!
You stole my immortality. I will blot you out of the sky. The shadow deepens at the 5th degree, confirming the alignment with the Surya Siddhanta.
Imagine standing in a field thousands of years ago. Without warning, the midday sun is swallowed by a creeping black void. To early humanity, this sudden loss of light provoked visceral terror. The sky was under attack. Hindu Puranic texts explain this violence through the myth of the Samudra Manthan. In the earliest days of time, the gods and demons entered a fragile truce to churn the cosmic ocean of milk, hoping to extract Amrita, the elixir of immortality. As the divine female avatar Mohini distributed the nectar to the gods, a demon named Swarbhanu disguised himself. He slipped into their ranks, raised the cup, and drank. The sun and moon deities spotted the deception immediately. They alerted the avatar, who hurled Vishnu's spinning discus, the Sudarshan Chakra, directly at the demon's neck. The blade struck true, but it was a fraction of a second too late. The elixir had already reached his throat. The demon's head became the immortal entity Rahu, while his severed body fell away to become Ketu. Betrayed by the luminaries, Rahu swore a bitter eternal vendetta against the sun and the moon. This severed head endlessly pursues his betrayers across the heavens. When he catches them, he swallows them whole, causing an eclipse. But lacking a stomach to hold his prey, the blazing spheres simply slip out of his open throat, returning light to the world. A temporary interruption of daylight became a literal manifestation of immortal vengeance, turning abstract celestial mechanics into a visible, bloody conflict. This crowded mythological sky sets the stage for even more chaotic collisions. According to the Ramayana, when the monkey god Hanuman was a hungry infant, he looked up at the fiery sunrise and mistook the glowing orb for a delicious fruit. Driven by his intense divine appetite, the young infant forcefully launched himself from the earth, hurtling into the highest heavens. Coincidentally, he timed his leap for the exact moment Rahu moved in to consume the sun. The two forces collided midair. Hanuman took one look at the massive shadow demon and decided Rahu looked like an appetizing snack too. The infant opened his mouth to eat the eater. Terrified, the immortal head fled to the king of the gods, Indra. He frantically complained that his designated celestial meal was being poached by a much larger monster. Indra rode out on his divine elephant, Airavata, to restore order. Finding the infant playing with the sun's chariot, Indra rapidly hurled a glowing thunderbolt, striking Hanuman on the jaw and sending the unconscious child plummeting back down to earth. In profound grief over his injured son, Hanuman's mighty father, the wind god Vayu, withdrew all the air from the entire universe. The divine gods, the underworld demons, and mortal humans began to suddenly suffocate. The cosmic asphyxiation only ended when the creator god, Brahma, intervened, reviving Hanuman and bestowing him with boons. The heavens detailed in these texts are deeply perilous. Competing divine hungers violently disrupt the fabric of reality, forcing the highest authorities to intervene just to keep the universe breathing. Neighboring cultures faced the exact same terrifying skies, but developed completely different methods for managing the threat. In Buddhist scriptures, specifically the Surya Sutta, Rahu remains the aggressor. He still ambushes the sun and moon deities. However, instead of battling the demon with physical weapons or thunderbolts, the deities recite a brief stanza expressing their deep reverence for the Buddha. Hearing this, the Buddha issues a divine ultimatum. Rahu must immediately release his celestial prey, or suffer the consequence of having his head split into 7 pieces. The demon retreats without a physical fight. These specific stanzas became a permanent fixture of Buddhist liturgy. To this very day, dedicated monks actively chant these exact verses as a protective prayer to ward off the encroaching shadow. By replacing a bloody war with spoken prayer, this spiritual philosophy offered a psychological shield. It gave humanity a sense of agency, asserting that faith could halt even the most chaotic celestial anomalies. Modern astronomy stripped the demon of his fangs, but it kept his name. In Hindu astrology, Rahu is classified as a shadow planet. He has no physical mass, rock, or gas. This 3D diagram shows what Rahu actually is, the North Lunar Node. It is a precise mathematical intersection point where the Moon's tilted orbital path crosses ascendingly through the Sun's flat ecliptic plane. Because the orbit is tilted, the Moon usually passes above or below the Sun from our perspective. But when the Moon and Sun perfectly align at this exact glowing node, the Moon casts its shadow onto the Earth. The demon swallows the light. This intersection point is not stationary. It rotates around the Earth in a predictable 18-year loop known as the Saros cycle. By tracking this cycle, ancient astronomers could calculate exactly when the nodes would align, mapping out the math of the monster. Yet mapping the math didn't erase his cultural power. In Vedic astrology, Rahu retains his fearsome reputation. Positioned diametrically opposite his severed body, Ketu, he remains a highly malefic force in human birth charts. His influence maps directly onto his mythological origins. Rahu rules over deceit, delusion, and intense, obsessive materialistic hunger. But in the right astrological alignment, that same chaotic disruption governs modern science, technology, ecology, and counterculture. The node is the astronomical shadow on the Earth. In astrological practice, it represents the shadow in our psyche, unseen desires that eclipse our rationality. For thousands of years, humanity has looked up at a suddenly dark sky and tried to make sense of the void. Whether we map the invisible geometry of an orbital node or pass down the story of an immortal severed head, we are doing the exact same thing, building a framework to survive the dark. Imagine standing in a field 3,000 years ago. In the middle of a clear afternoon, a sudden, freezing shadow races across the landscape and swallows the light. The birds go quiet, the stars come out at noon. To an early agrarian society, an eclipse looked like an apocalyptic break in reality. Yet instead of surrendering to panic, early civilizations measured these terrifying celestial blackouts with astonishing precision. In the Hindu cosmological system, ancient astronomers mapped the sky using the Navagraha. These are the 9 major celestial bodies understood to influence the world, including massive physical spheres like the Sun, the Moon, Mars, and Jupiter. Curious, but right alongside those physical giants sits a total anomaly, a recognized, highly influential planet named Rahu that possesses absolutely zero mass. Tracking an invisible, weightless shadow was impossible by sight alone. Instead, the ancients encoded their astronomical data into a true crime saga of cosmic theft, betrayal, and a swift decapitation. Rahu operates as a terrifying demon in folklore, but underneath that fanged exterior, he is actually the ancient world's most brilliant mathematical proof disguised as a horror story. The math begins in deep antiquity during the Samudra Manthan. In this epic event, the gods and demons entered a temporary truce, using a giant celestial serpent as a rope to churn the cosmic ocean and extract the elixir of immortality. As the divine nectar was finally drawn up and distributed among the gods, a powerful demon named Swarbhanu saw his chance. He disguised himself, slipped into the ranks of the deities, and managed to steal a sip of the elixir. His perfect heist failed because of 2 witnesses. Surya, the sun god, and Chandra, the moon god, spotted the demon through his disguise and immediately exposed him to Lord Vishnu. Vishnu reacted instantly. He hurled his razor-sharp discus, slicing Swarbhanu's head cleanly from his shoulders. But the demon had already swallowed the nectar. The blade separated his anatomy, but it couldn't kill him. This violent cosmic split left two distinct living entities. The headless body became Ketu, and the immortal severed head became Rahu, bound by an eternal burning thirst for revenge against the sun and the moon. Rahu's method of vengeance is straightforward. He relentlessly hunts the sun and the moon across the celestial sphere, catching and attempting to swallow them whole. But the myth accounts for the sun's inevitable return. Because Rahu ate just a severed head with no stomach, the blazing orb simply falls out of his neck, providing a narrative reason for why the star is only obscured for a few minutes. This 3D wireframe model shows the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. Translating this demon into modern orbital mechanics uncovers a direct alignment. Rahu and Ketu map to the north and south lunar nodes. Because of that tilt, the Moon's orbit crosses the Sun's apparent path at two exact invisible points on the celestial sphere. The ascending intersection is the north node, or Rahu. The descending intersection is the south node, Ketu. These nodes sit perfectly 180 degrees apart, and they slowly rotate around the Earth. Every 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours, they align exactly with the Sun and Moon to cast a shadow on the Earth. This highly predictable mathematical rhythm is known as the Saros cycle. Ancient astronomers didn't have optical telescopes to calculate this. They used the vivid, terrifying image of an immortal head chasing the sun as a highly accurate mnemonic device to memorize and track the invisible, repeating mathematics of our solar system. Rahu's chaotic nature ripples out into other regional legends. In one text, the demon grew arrogant enough to demand Lord Shiva surrender his wife, Parvati. Shiva responded by generating a massive, roaring lion monster from his own forehead, nearly eating Rahu alive before the demon surrendered. In another famous collision, Rahu moved in to eclipse the sun, only to find the infant monkey god Hanuman already flying toward it. The young god had simply mistaken the blinding star for a delicious, glowing piece of fruit, completely interrupting the demon's orbital schedule. This narrative strategy of giving teeth to math isn't exclusive to Hindu texts. Look across the globe, and you find Norse myths describing massive wolves eating the sun, or Chinese dragons tearing at the heavens during an eclipse. Across diverse civilizations, humanity reached a remarkably consistent conclusion, translating the geometry of an orbital intersection into the archetype of a starving apex predator. Today, Rahu's influence remains deeply embedded in Vedic astrology. Even without physical mass, this shadow planet governs the darker, chaotic sides of human nature, ruling over deceit, material obsession, and sudden trauma. Yet there is also reverence. In Buddhist traditions, monks still gather in solemn formation to recite ancient protective liturgy. They honor a scripture where the Buddha himself compelled Rahu to release the celestial bodies through sheer spiritual authority. Rahu survives today as a functional record of astronomical observation. The persistence of the myth reflects an ancient society that was rigorous and data-driven long before the invention of the telescope. Standing under a solar eclipse today offers a dual perspective. You are witnessing the cold precision of orbital geometry and an ancient mathematical ghost simultaneously. Whether mapped out through strict geometry or painted as a violent epic legend, humanity used myth and math for the exact same purpose, to bring a little bit of order to a terrifying universe.